Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dr. Darnice's Writing and Lifestyle Salon. I just wanted to come on today and talk about the writing process, my writing process. And what I'm doing now is, as you know, I said I'm um, reinvigorating this YouTube channel because I want to document my process and maybe it can be of some help to others who want to write a book and maybe don't know where to start. You feel like you don't know where to start. And so this is kind of my process. And what I can say is, you start with your own idea, right? And even no matter how small or just a tiny piece of it, or how cryptic it may seem, how elusive it may seem at any one point, if you really have a desire to write, then you you can just start, and nothing has to be perfect. When I was writing my dissertation, a lot of people who are writing their dissertation get stuck, right? They get stuck because they're like, I don't, it's not good enough, it's not good enough. And so I read a book called How to Write Your Dissertation in 15 Minutes a Day. Obviously, 15 minutes a day isn't going to really write the dissertation, but it's about getting in the practice. 15 minutes that you mentally commit to so that you get yourself in the practice, like, yes, I can do this. Yes, I'm going to do this. And the other part of that is allowing yourself to force a raw draft. A raw draft is even before the first draft. Right. So in this video, like I said, it's going to be about, what I use to get myself started, and maybe it'll be of some help to you. So the idea phase, and a couple things I use even for that, right? I have my handy dandy postcard, well, index cards. I'm just realizing that I got these ones that it's dusty. Wow. I haven't pulled this out in a minute. I wanted to get the cards with lines, but I mistakenly got the blank ones. But you know what? We'll make it work, because what I'm going to do is assign each of the main topics a card and color code it with markers and whatever. So, just to share with you my topic, I'm writing a book on Hoodoo spirituality. And if you're not familiar, you might want to go to my other YouTube channel, Dr. Darnice's House of Religion, Magic, and Conjure, and check out what I do there. I really go into a lot of different spiritual teachings. So, I am writing about this particular spirituality, African American Hoodoo. It is a spiritual folk magic tradition that is associated with African Americans in the South during slavery, immediately after slavery. And it's a form of resistance. It's a way that African Americans used their African religions and their New World Christianity and maintaining a focus on the folk practices, right? The um, healing properties and of the plants and everything, and anyway, folk spirituality or folk magic, you might even call it. And so I'm really interested in exploring this topic more, working with it more. Yeah, so that's my topic: hoodoo. Not voodoo, but hoodoo. Voodoo is another African system, but not this one. So, for example, I have this book here, the Hoodoo Tarot. So I read tarot, and I got this. I just recently got this Hoodoo Tarot deck, and so I've been loving it and loving the book that has come along with it, because this author talks a lot about what hoodoo is, and so the images on the tarot deck have to do with the things that would have been particularly relevant for African American Southern life, basically. She even has on the back of the deck, I should have brought a picture, um, uh, part of the U.S. where this was prevalent. So this was what's called the Low Country: Georgia, South Carolina, Northern Florida. Really, one could say Northern Florida all the way up to Appalachia, as far as the different geographical region where African Americans were practicing this particular kind of folk traditions that is infused with African spirituality. So, yeah, so one of the things I use, my handy dandy index cards, to have every major theme, right? So as I'm thinking about what are the themes, what are the major excuse me, the major ideas I want to get across, and I'm still fleshing them out. I'm going to put them on these index cards and really start fleshing them out. Well, then I also have this journal, and I use this from my book 40 something, but I really used it towards the end of writing it to help me just keep track of the details of self-publishing, because that's a lot to do. Self-publishing is a whole thing, and I'll be doing some videos on that. But this is where I kept track of various expenses that I had related to self-publishing. And then just some things about how to do it and how to use Amazon and all kinds of different things. And I even, like, I put this typewriter there because, I like typewriters. And anyway, so I want to go back to my handy dandy purple velvet journal and flesh out ideas. And so I started doing that because I had a dream, y'all, about the table of contents, what this book was really going to be about. It really came to me that way. And I believe in that. Like, I make a continual relationship between creativity and spirituality. What is inspiration? Where does it come from? And I'm a believer that it's a spiritual process, that it really can just come to us if we will allow, if we'll ask the questions we need. What is this project? What are my characters' names, or whatever? And I asked that question, and I woke up the next morning with pretty much the major ideas right here. So, as I said, and it was remarkable, right? It was great. I woke up and I thought, I know exactly what I want this book to be about. I know exactly the major themes, but I need to flesh them out. So each idea is going to go on this card. I'm going to start fleshing them out. I'm going to start typing, not on the typewriter, but on my computer. And also, I'm gathering the different books that I'm going to need. As this book is going to be part academic, because I'm a college professor, I kind of can't help it. So I do my research. So part academic and part practitioner. So for those people who do practice Hoodoo, it'll be something that's an interesting read for people who are non-academics but practitioners of Hoodoo. And so it'll be research-based, but it'll also be practical. And so, like, for example, this book is called Rituals of Resistance. And so as I was saying to you, when I was talking about what's Hoodoo, African Atlantic religion in Congo and the Low Country South in the era of slavery. So the topic of this book is really African religion that comes from the Congo and with the people who came, right, and who lived in the Low Country area of the U.S. So enslaved people who were brought from the Congo of West Africa and brought to the Low Country, Georgia, South Carolina, Northern Florida. And so this is really about how this folk spirituality worked as a way of resisting slavery. So that's obviously a very much of interest to me. Working Conjure, a guide to Hoodoo folk magic. And these are just, different things that I recognize have some things to teach me. Here's something. So when I say it's also practical, Hoodoo shrines and altars, sacred spaces in conjure and root work. So the way people create altars and what they look like and what they're used for, that's why that'll be of help. Some of you may have even heard of Marie Laveau, the magic of Marie Laveau. She's not really Hoodoo per se. She has been called the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. And so you may have heard of Marie Laveau through all kinds of pop culture. A lot of times she's mentioned in TV and film. I know there was a character about her on American Horror Story when they did the season on witches. I don't really watch it, but I saw a couple of episodes, but I don't really keep up with this show. But I know that they had a storyline about Marie Laveau there. And Voodoo, once again, is really African traditional religion. Voodoo is the name that in the U.S. we say, but it's Vodun, actually. And so, there's all sorts of negative things associated with it, but those things are actually not accurate. And anyway, so, well, because of her fame and, so much about her is in the media, I am going to, I'm sure there's something I can learn in this as well. I have it as sort of a contrast. What's the difference between someone who's practicing voodoo, Vodun, versus hoodoo? And, I'll tell you just now, voodoo or Vodun is an actual religious system, whereas hoodoo is more of the spiritual practices. So, whatever religion you are. So, like some Christians, for example, will say it's not cool to be Christian and read or put too much stock in astrology. You shouldn't go to a psychic. If you're Christian, you shouldn't go to a psychic, but people do, right? So hoodoo is like that kind of add-on kind of folk traditions that you could do no matter what your religion. And Vodun, though, is a particular African traditional religion and spirituality. So it's the difference between, as people sometimes say, religion and spirit. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. So you might say, yeah, I don't practice a religion like Vodun. I practice a spirituality called Hoodoo. So just to kind of clear that up. I just feel like I had to give you some sort of rooted somewhere when I'm talking to you about my book and what I'm writing and what is the topic. If I didn't tell you the topic, you'd say, well, what are you writing about? And so, it just kind of makes sense for me to share with you what I'm writing as I go along my process. So what do you need to start? Index cards. I've got my markers here. Where's my, I've got multicolored markers here. If I'm writing fiction, which I'm also writing a fiction book, I'll make a video about that too. Yes, I'm writing 2 books. Then the different points of view or different characters would have different color names or color markers, just so it kind of stands out to me more. But in this case of nonfiction, I'll still be using the markers, I'm sure, some kind of a way. So idea stage, flesh out in an outline. If it comes to you, in the blink of an eye or in a dream, it came to me. Flesh out my main ideas on these cards. Whatever notes or sort of administrative ideas that come to me into the journal, keeping myself on track, to write in here like, okay, I want to have this done by this time, just keeping myself on track, really. So these are my initial tools, and the research books that pile is going to grow. Right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books I've shared with you, but there's more in here. I've got a whole library, so those will grow and as I find out more, and I'm extraordinarily interested in this topic, so there's just more to learn every day. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, and I hope this process video has been helpful to you. Leave in the comments what you think, or what kind of videos would you like to see. What are some questions that you have in terms of writing your book or your articles, or maybe it's a blog you write. You just want to flesh out some ideas related to writing a blog. I'd be happy to help. All right, bye for now.